Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Lynch Paints, where today the Legion of choice is the Lunar Walls, and this video was made possible by my wonderful subscribers. So if you want to get involved with the next pick of the tutorial that I do, then the best thing to do, and the only thing to do, is to become a subscriber. It's just 2 seconds of your time to click the button down below. And of course, like, comment, do all that usual YouTube stuff, just to help grow this little channel of mine, and it makes me very happy. And of course, when we hit certain milestones, I'll do giveaways where I can paint stuff for you, send it out, and yeah, we'll have a good time. So let us grab our paints and paintbrushes and let's dive straight into this. However, before we get started, we're going to need a selection of paints, and these are all the ones I've used in the video today, alongside which we're going to need a rather chunky basing brush, just base brush even. We're going to need a little sort of knackered, fluffy little brush for all our metallics. We're going to need a medium-sized, smallish brush. And then, of course, we're going to need our teeny tiny brush for all of those teeny tiny places. So up next, once the contrast is dry, we are then going to take some of this lovely Black Legion contrast, or again, the equivalent of that you have in your possession. So we're going to take this and we're going to go over the Under Armour areas, as well as the trim and the weapons. Once you're done with the Black Legion contrast, or that kind of equivalent of whatever you're using, it should turn out like this. Now, one thing you might have noticed is that when I was going over the shoulder pad, I did slip up a little bit here. Now, the easiest thing you can do, instead of having to paint the whole shoulder pad white and then put on the apothecary contrast paint again, and this, taking up a lot more time, what you can do is look at how the colour looks on the very end there. And because it's now no longer a nice white, it's more of a grey, we're going to take some of this administration grey and a little bit of this white sky. We're going to mix the two together. We're going to try and match as close as we can to that colour. So we're going to start out with a little bit of white in with the grey, and of course thin your paint down, your brushes down with a teeny tiny bit of water. I'm just going to run this along here, just see how well it looks. Might have used a little bit too much water really, because it's still showing up the black, but in terms of the colour, it actually is a pretty darn close match. Now, of course, if you do go over onto the trim, you can just wipe off with your thumb, just nice and easy. But what we can do is that we can just kind of put it on there, leave it to dry, and then once it's dried, we can then start to just add in a little bit more white, and we can just try and blend it back in just a little bit. So don't worry if you do go over onto your white, because you can fix it pretty well, or at least hide it pretty well, should I say. So yeah, so honestly, if something like that happens, then don't worry too much, because it can be fixed. So put that to one side, and when we have our teeny tiny brush, we're going to paint some teeny tiny places. So again, just using this, I haven't really got much of this stuff left. I need to get some more. It's looking really horrible and claggy. How is there hair in it? No idea. Anyway, sorry for my sniffling. Hay fever, pollen season, it's horrible. And I'm a gardener as well by trade, so it's yeah, not the best combination. I don't like working inside, so unless it's painting, it's not really work, it's fun. And we are just going to do just a few simple highlights, because remember, we're trying to maximize quality, but also bearing in mind if we have to paint like 20 or 30 of these. So I want to try and find the easiest way for you guys to paint a lot of models and still have a really nice high level of detail. So with the highlighting, my best bet, my best advice really is just to pick out just a few areas. So primarily just sticking to the top of the armor joints, armor panels, sorry. Don't have to really bother too much with getting into all the nitty gritty stuff unless you really want to. There's kind of a little bit around the boot there as well. But yeah, just try and minimize this, because of course highlighting does take a long time, a lot of concentration, and stuff like this, like just kind of working just into the corners and going up just a little bit to give the impression that it is highlighted all the way along, because your eye will be attracted to those points and your brain will go, oh yeah, that's all highlighted, but it's not. So that's one way you can sort of cheat it a little bit. Now that our highlighting is all done and out the way with, and again, just try and keep it as simple as you can, we are going to move over to using some of this. And we're going to paint up the weapons, the underarm and that sort of thing, and best bet is to use just a small, sort of quite raggedy looking brush, you know, a little bitch brush, because I mean everyone's got one at some point. Sorry, just not the camera there. And then we're just going to give it just a nice little dry brush just over all of the areas that we want to be nice and shiny and metallic. Then, and this is completely optional, you can add a little bit more pizzazz with this Runefang steel. So again, with your little bitch brush, you can grab this and then you can just use it just to highlight some of the metallic areas. So you can just take it for just a little walk around your model. Just tiny little highlights if you like, or just kind of brightening up some areas just to make it stand out. It's entirely up to you. I quite like to use it on these kind of, no idea what the hell they're called, but the top of the backpack there, just to kind of show a little bit more of a reflective look, and then just a little bit down the bottom there as well, and then just run over as much as you like. Again, this is optional, you don't have to do this step, but if you want to make some areas just pop, then go ahead and use it. Up next, we're just going to do a tiny little bit of highlighting, with some of this Storm Vermin fur or any kind of lighter sort of mid-tone grey, and then we're just going to use this just to make the weapons just stand out. So just a quick little highlight just running across the top there, a little bit along the bottom as well. And one thing that we can do is, mainly with the chainsaw, just because it looks better on there, is just using a teeny tiny sponge, and then we can create some nice weathering. I forgot to do that bit with the silver, so we'll do that in a moment. And then just kind of almost like a little heavy dry brush, just going over the bolter there. And with this brush, I might just go over some of those little areas. The reason why that it's good, or rather quite handy, to have a little frayed brush, or as I like to call it, a little bitch brush, is because of the kind of reflective pigments that they put into the metallics do absolutely knacker your brushes and causes them to fray if you don't clean them out properly. And I never clean out my brushes properly, other than, you know, just swirling it around with water. So it's always handy just to have a brush like that, just to do little bits and pieces. And if, you know, everyone's got one. Everyone's got a tired knacker brush, so don't throw it away. Just keep it for all of these little metallic areas. This one is on its way out, which is why I'm using it. So I might just go over some of these little studs as well and just tidy up, because it was not accurate at all. It was all frayed and horrible looking. So now we're going to move over on to doing a little bit of chip damage. So I've got this teeny tiny bit of sponge and some of this like darkish mid-tone grey. And then we're going to run this over the chainsword, just kind of slipping it on just a little bit. This I quite like to do because it's quite relaxing, it's quite free flowing. You can just kind of put on as much or as little as you like. Just going to put a little bit just on the shoulder pads as well. And also a little bit on the armour as well, because of course, it being the Horus Heresy, it's quite kind of grimy and sort of scuffed up and stuff like that. So I'm just going to put a little bit on here and there. Thinking about it, no. I'm going to do this for the black kind of parts and bits and pieces like that. But I think for the armour, I'm going to do maybe something like this, like Corvus black. So it's not entirely like a proper like dark black, you know what I mean. It's not Abaddon black, but this should probably look just a little bit better. I see a great big smudge like that, so yeah, be careful when when doing this sort of thing. But yeah, just pop on just a little bit here and there, and it just adds just a little bit more to your miniature if you can actually get it into where you want it to go without it smudging everywhere. Oh, I'm making a mess of this. I swear, I am professional. So now we're going to move on to doing the eye lenses after we've done a little bit of optional sort of like battle damage. Because at the end of the day, you know, you don't have to do the battle damage, but I think it just looks really, really rather cool and just adds a little bit more sort of detail to your model with using a very, very simple method, really, just using a teeny tiny sponge. And also because it's not very precise a lot of the time, I find it quite relaxing, quite therapeutic, just kind of just bobbing it on and just seeing where the sponge lands. So to do the lenses, what I've got is a mixed up Corvus Black and Mephiston Red. I've done like a bit of a 60-40 mix, so it's really, really nice and dark. And I'll pop that in to start with. And then we're going to use pretty much just like pure Mephiston Red. And again, of course, you know, using your teeny weeny tiny brush. And then we're going to paint about 2/3 of the front of the lens with Mephiston Red, and just kind of swoop it under, so it's the side closest to the face grill that we're going to do. And then once we've done that, we're then going to use a little bit of orange, and it could be any orange that you have. If you don't have orange, you can always mix in some yellow in with your red. I would definitely not recommend putting white and mixing white into the red, because then you're going to get a pink and it just doesn't quite look right. So definitely use an orange if you can. I'm going to use a little bit of that just to brighten it up, because you don't need much red to be mixing with the orange, because red is a very, very, very strong color. So I'm going to use this, and we're just going to do the very end of the lens. So a teeny little dot, just like that. And now just to sell the illusion of it being a reflective surface, we're just going to kind of wipe that off, rinse out our brushes, and then we're going to grab some of this white. And we're only going to need a teeny tiny bit. I'm just going to aim towards the back, pop in just a little white dot, and that way it's going to show that there's a reflective surface there, and it really sell that illusion. So the last thing that we're going to do is the symbol. So I've cleared everything out of the way, and I've got my white and I've got this Corvus Black, because like a bit of a silly goose that I am, I went to buy some more Abaddon Black, and I picked up the wrong one and didn't realise until I got home that it was Corvus Black, and Yeah, silly me. So I'm just going to make the most of it, really. So got covers back, got the remainder bit of my white scar, and also got the layman medium here as well, just to give us a helping hand with just thinning down our paints. You can use tap water if you like, just regular water, but it does tend to dry out your paints quicker than using this stuff. So if you don't have that to hand, then just use some nice clean water and it will do the trick. So I've got a teeny tiny brush and I've loaded up the symbol. I'm going to do it on the shoulder pad here, and yeah, just gonna get started. So here we are at the end of the video. So this is how I went about painting the Lunar Wolves Space Marines for your Horus Heresy Legions. It's been a really fun one. I don't see many Lunar Wolves armies out there, obviously because they went to Davin, so maybe about halfway through, so like towards the end of the Great Crusade, and then changed the colour scheme to that really nice colour, deep sea green. And then the Horus Heresy kicked off, and we all know what happens after that point. But it's been a really fun one to do, and this video was made possible by my wonderful subscribers who voted on my recent community post about what legions to choose from. And if you want to make your voice heard about what legions that you want to see me paint next on the run up to the Horus Heresy being released, then become a subscriber. And just 2 seconds of your time, click the button down below, and also while you're down there as well, clicking all the buttons, whether you're on your phone or laptop or wherever, then drop me a comment. Let me know if I had done them well, if you enjoyed this video as well, and let me know also if you collect Lunar Wolves, because I'd love to know how many people out there actually collect this legion, because it's quite a nice colour scheme to go for, you know, the black and the white. The logo was a little bit fiddly, so of course, to any of you that kind of look at that sort of thing and go, oh my god, I can't do this, then get your hands on some decals. But if you're feeling brave or just want a bit of a challenge, then try the freehanding, because it's not as bad as you might think. I mean, the arrow was particularly easy, but the symbol was a little bit tricky, but I recommend, if you want to do it, give it a go. And if you want to pick up some Horus Heresy Marines for yourselves, whether that's the new Saturnine box, which is currently, I believe, at 35% off with my affiliate link for Wayland Games down in the description below, or if you are not that way inclined and want to stick with Heresy 2.0, then they've got all of the Horus Heresy model ranges out there, and I believe the old rule books as well still. I recommend just kind of checking it out over there just to be sure. There'll be some stills and reels of this miniature over on my Instagram page at Lynch Paints if you want to check me out over there as well. And there is also a link to my free Discord server as well, linked down below. If you want to come over there, have a chat, have a hangout, talk some Heresy, talk some Star Wars Legion, Dungeons and Dragons, whatever kind of hobby stuff you like. And yeah, it'd be great to see you over there. So without further ado, stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you all next time.